Hi, everybody. Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Chasers. Taking a look at the weather today, December 15th, 2021. Big news of the day was that huge system moving through the Midwest there. Brought big winds from Colorado all through Nebraska, Kansas, even Oklahoma, all the way up towards Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Great Lakes. And you can see it on the map here, this huge swath right now of 60 plus mile per hour gusts still going on as we speak. Some of these storms were tornadic as they got up towards Minnesota and Wisconsin, Iowa, and this is extremely rare for this time of year, unheard of actually in December. Um, Extreme fire danger behind, mainly back through Kansas. I know a lot of fires were breaking out there, so hopefully that situation is getting too crazy. There was a lot of blowing dust too, pretty extreme video coming out of there. Check that out on Twitter as well. Looking through the Pacific Northwest, you can see most of the strong winds are well offshore here, mostly light winds over the Pacific Northwest. We're on the cool side of this low pressure here in Western Washington, a little bit into Western Oregon. You can see temperatures in the mid and upper 30s, mostly just rain in the lowlands. Of course, in the mountains, it's snow. There's a few snowflakes flying in the eastern portions of the states also. Let's take a look at this satellite loop for that Midwest storm. Look at that, just beast storm. It's almost got an eye on it there as it goes through Minnesota. Very impressive. Looking at the GO 17, and you can see our system here looked a little bit more powerful yesterday. It's filling and weakening quite rapidly as it approaches the coastline there. You can see some cold air cues still streaming into Oregon, but this is the last of that batch of cold air that's been on our region for a few days now, and we'll be looking at another system coming in here in a couple days, and then we'll check out potential for snowfall, and we'll look at the odds, what kind of odds we're looking at for a white Christmas here in the lowlands of Western Washington, Oregon, BC. Mountains, it's a virtual guarantee that they're going to have snow on the ground for Christmas, and they'll probably see some on Christmas Day also. So let's go ahead and check out those odds. Historically, for Seattle, it's about a 6% chance of a white Christmas. And I think we're definitely above that this year. You can see the control run here for Christmas Day brings us 2 inches of snow. You can see there's still plenty of ensembles saying no snow, and there's a few with just a few tenths, but there's a couple heavy snowfall scenarios in there as well. And that's due to the Arctic air and the general uncertainty of what kind of path that Arctic air is going to take as it moves off the continent towards our area. Will it take a short trajectory into Western Oregon and Washington, or will it take a larger one, which it modifies the Arctic air too much? Or will the Arctic air just stay too far north and the cyclone just bring in a nice warm flow at the surface? We'll have to take a look at that a little bit closer as we go. We're still 8+ days away from the event, so it's too early to pin down details yet. But these are how these systems go. This is normal. I mean, if we do get Arctic air into the region, I expect this what it would look like in a forecast 8 days out. There's a lot of uncertainty still. So we're going to look at the GFS. Looks like it brings almost a couple inches of snow for Christmas also on the control run. So that's a little encouraging for snow lovers. You can see there's plenty of ensembles that say no snow, and there's the share that say that there's going to be some snow, even a couple of heavy snowfall scenarios there. And you can see these snow chances continue on to the end of the year once they start back up again about a week from today. So mid next week is what we're looking at as far as when snow chances return. Let's take a look at, I pulled this scenario from I believe this is the GFS here. This is a very snowy scenario that I pulled from here. The Arctic air and a fairly deep low off the coast here. You can see these tight gradients, and this would bring a nice offshore flow with a nice deformation band on the northeast side of that. And it would bring a pretty good band of snow to some areas of Portland north in this scenario and into British Columbia. So I just wanted to show what this would look like. This is on Christmas Day too, so that would be a nice treat for weather watchers. And this is from the Euro. You can see the very strong Arctic high up over British Columbia and these extremely tight gradients. Again, this is what we look for. This is where the cold air builds up in here, and then we get this resultant trough, over the Pacific Northwest, and you get this tight gradient, and that's what brings these northeast winds through the Fraser River Gap and off the continent, and then it picks up moisture and brings it back into Western Washington, and that's how we get our main snowfall events here for Pacific Northwest. Let's take a look at, we're going to look at this morning's European mean. look at North America so we get a good view of it. And we're going to go to pressure and infer weather from there. This is the 18Z. We want the 12Z so we can look out a little bit further. 18Z only goes out 144 hours. So here's today's system kind of sliding through there. It's weak, it's getting absorbed. And you can see some Arctic air, not much of it, but it slides down east of the Rockies mainly. You see that 1040 high, 1038. And there comes our next system. This is on Saturday morning, kind of sliding in from the northwest. You can see we're still getting onshore flow through most of the Pacific Northwest here, and the low kind of stays north. Some cooler air starting to work its way down into the Yukon and British Columbia there, and then this open trough, very weak out over the Pacific Northwest, with some chillier air moving into the region starting on the 20th. Not much of that's going to get into Western Washington, I should point that out, but as this low is cut off, this is an ensemble mean, so the low very well may be deeper than this, what it's showing off the Gulf of California, or coast of California here, sorry. And this low is mostly cut off, but it's going to be reabsorbed here on about the 22nd, 23rd. You can see that energy in front of that Arctic air as it starts to march its way down on the east side of that ridge out of the Pacific Ocean. And you can see that energy emerges there. And that low pressure is set up right off the Washington coast, and that Arctic air is moving down in. So this is kind of a general average of where the low and the high is, which is close to a snowy scenario for portions of Western Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia for the lowlands too. So you can see that gradient starting to tighten up in BC there. And going on to the future a little bit more, you can still see, this is an average of where that low pressure is going to be. So it could very easily be a little south or a little north. And those slight differences in position are going to that's going to tend to have a big change on what kind of temperatures we're going to get here in the lowlands. So going a little bit further ahead now, you can see that since this is simply an average, there's not much variation. You're averaging 51 different separate runs here. So that's not a bad look for snow lovers. This is definitely a potential for some snow. Let's back up to Christmas Day here. This is Christmas Day. And yeah, the low's there, and there's some Arctic air up north. So that's all you can ask for really at this juncture in the forecast, 8, 9, 10 days out. That's not much more you can ask for there. Let's look at the control run here and make sure that's on 12Z. And this is this 22nd here. You can see this one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be, these lows are going to be a little more extreme because this is not an ensemble mean. This is the ensemble control run. And you can see that low pressure off California, it was cut off. It kind of gets merged with that one coming out of the northwest. And you can see that low right off the coast of Western Washington there. And you can see those gradients tightening up through British Columbia. And again, this is all you can ask for really at this point. I mean, I suppose the signal could be a little stronger for the Arctic air to be situated a little further south, but I mean, you take what you can get. Right there, that looks like a pretty snowy scenario, actually. That's Christmas morning, and that's a pretty good low with a tight gradient north into British Columbia, and that's a nice Arctic high up there in the Yukon. So I'm good with that. I want snow, and I'm pretty good with that setup right there. So take from that what you will, but there is still a chance. I would say it's probably, I was seeing 16 to 25%, and it's tough to get snow down here, but I'll still stick with somewhere around there, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 chance for a white Christmas in Seattle. And of course, it's going to be a little bit lower in Portland, just because, as you saw with the ensemble runs of lows a little bit higher, they're going to be subjected to a little bit warmer air. And of course, your chances like Spokane or Bend, Oregon, or British Columbia are even going to be higher than Seattle for a white Christmas. And in the mountains, the Cascades, of course, and up into BC, you're going to be virtually guaranteed a white Christmas. And what else can we cover here for tonight? Actually, I wanted to mention that I'm probably going to do some weather history. I'm going to break down some events from the past. So I'll probably put a poll out, and I'm going to ask people which event would like to go over. The first one I'm going to do is November 1955, November. That was a really unique Arctic outbreak. It brought I think it got down to 6 at SeaTac one of those nights, and it brought some pretty good snowfall when the Arctic outbreak ended. There was a little bit with the Arctic Passage, but a really unique event. And there's a journal in it from 1955, a weather journal. They talk about how they were trying to forecast snow events back then, and they used some different methods. And they didn't spot this storm coming until about 18 to 24 hours prior to the Arctic air mass getting into the region. So it was kind of unique looking at that. So I'll probably go ahead and do that one first, and then I'll do uh, I'll do a poll, and I'll just find out which one you guys want to see. You know, if you want to look at the 89 event or the 85 or maybe 1968, there's some good snow events to look at, and probably look at a snow event just because that's the potential for what's coming up here. And maybe I'll do that for a wind event once we get back into a windstorm pattern here. So yeah, I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'd like to go live and do some Q&As. I'm learning different software on how to share the screen and go live. So if you guys want to keep subscribing and clicking like, getting good response on these videos, and I will update probably after I see the European model tonight, and then I will talk to you guys later on Twitter. So thanks for watching.